Welcome to Tech Talks with Kinsoft. We are taking a massive stack of research today and just really distilling the most critical insights into a clear, engaging conversation tailored strictly for you.
Exactly. We do the heavy lifting on the reading, so you don't have to.
Right. And today's topic is, honestly, it's a huge one. We are looking at the April 2026 cyber attack on the medical technology titan Medtronic. And this was pulled off by that really notorious cybercrime group, ShinyHunters.
Yeah, that one made serious waves across the entire industry.
It really did. And just to set the ground rules for you listening, today's information comes strictly from two very reputable industry sources, which are the recent reporting from Infosecurity magazine and SecurityWeek.
Which is important, because there's a lot of speculation out there when these things happen, so sticking to verified reporting is key.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to really unpack exactly what happened, how Medtronic's network architecture played this crucial role in actually defending patient safety, and what the, well, kind of mysterious aftermath suggests about the current state of ransomware negotiations.
It's a fascinating case study in modern defense, for sure.
So let's just start at the inciting incident, right? The moment the clock started ticking, picture this. You are looking at Medtronic, which is just an immense company.
Oh, massive. Over 95,000 employees.
Right. 95,000 employees operating in 150 countries. They manufacture everything from, basic supplies to pacemakers and advanced surgical robots. And then on April 17th, 2026, ShinyHunters lists Medtronic on their leak website.
Yeah, they didn't just quietly slip in. They made a very public announcement.
Exactly. The hackers claim to have stolen more than 9 million records. And this wasn't just like basic data, it was personal information alongside just terabytes of internal corporate data.
And they gave an ultimatum.
Right, a strict deadline. They said Medtronic had until April 21 to pay a ransom, or all of that stolen data would be published for the world to see.
4 days. That's incredibly aggressive.
It is. And to me, it's like a high-stakes digital hostage situation, right? But the kidnappers, instead of keeping it quiet and sending a private note, they immediately go to the press.
Right, they rent a billboard.
Yep, they rent a billboard. So I have to ask, why do groups like ShinyHunters use these very public name-and-shame leak sites with actual countdown clocks instead of just, keeping the extortion private?
Well, it's all about leverage, right? It forces a completely different crisis management protocol. When they bypass the traditional private demand and use public humiliation as their primary weapon, they compress the incident response timeline from, say, weeks down to hours.
Because suddenly everyone knows.
Exactly. You are no longer just fighting the technical breach. You're fighting the clock, you're fighting shareholder panic and regulatory scrutiny all at the exact same time. The psychology is that public deadlines create immense pressure on publicly traded companies.
Right, the stock price starts reacting immediately.
Yeah, and it forces rapid, often panicked decision-making. The attackers calculate that the financial damage of a massive PR nightmare might just outweigh the cost of the ransom itself.
Wow. Okay, so looking at the broader context of what ShinyHunters was doing around this time, according to the sources, they were really heavily targeting the human element, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This wasn't necessarily some super sophisticated malware tearing down firewalls. They were compromising cloud-based CRM instances, specifically Salesforce.
Salesforce, right.
Yeah, and they did it by using phishing against single sign-on or SSO accounts.
Phishing, so that's voice phishing, where they actually call someone on the phone.
Precisely. It is remarkably effective. They target an employee, spoof the caller ID so it looks internal, and just manufacture this intense sense of urgency.
Like, hey, I'm from IT, you need to approve this login right now or your account is locked.
Exactly that. They trick the employee into giving up credentials or approving a multi-factor authentication push notification. And once they get that MFA approval, they just log in through the front door.
So if a company routes its Salesforce through that compromised SSO, the attackers are just in.
They're in. They have access to massive repositories of data without ever having to hack a database in the traditional sense.
That is terrifyingly simple. But okay, let's look at how Medtronic actually responded, because the worst case scenario here,
Which would be impacted medical devices.
right, pacemakers failing, surgical robots going offline, that was avoided. So the April 21 deadline comes and goes, and then on April 24, Medtronic officially confirmed the intrusion.
Yeah, they released an SEC Form 8K.
And in that filing, they noted the breach was limited to certain internal corporate IT systems, but the data that was potentially affected I mean, it was severe.
This is a very serious data privacy incident.
Yeah, the sources note it included names, addresses, certain medical details, billing and health insurance information, demographics, and even social security numbers.
Right, which triggers all sorts of compliance and regulatory nightmares.
But they also released this really critical statement. They said, we have not identified any impact to our products, patient safety, connections to our customers, our manufacturing and distribution operations, our financial reporting systems, or our ability to meet patient needs.
That is the architectural triumph right there.
Yeah. And the key to that defense was network separation. They kept corporate IT segregated from product and manufacturing networks. And hospital customer networks remained entirely separate too, secured by the hospital's own IT teams.
Plus, their diabetes-focused subsidiary, MiniMed, they submitted their own report to the SEC, confirming their IT systems were totally unaffected.
Which is incredible, but I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because perfect network separation just sounds so, I don't know, theoretical. It sounds like saying, well, the burglars broke into the bank's administrative office, but the vault is in a totally different, unconnected building.
Right.
But in a modern, hyper-connected enterprise of 95,000 people, is it actually possible for these systems to be 100% disconnected because people have to communicate, right?
That's a great question, and the short answer is no. They aren't physically completely disconnected in the way we used to think of an air gap.
Like literally unplugging the server.
Exactly. A true physical air gap means taking data from the factory floor and walking it over to the corporate office on a USB stick. At Medtronic scale, that would completely cripple their operations.
Right, you can't run a global supply chain on USB sticks.
You really can't. So
Yeah.
instead of physical air gaps, they use advanced network segmentation. It's about strict access controls and zero trust frameworks.
Zero trust, meaning the network assumes every connection is potentially hostile.
Precisely. In a flat network, an attacker compromises an HR laptop through that SSO phishing attack we talked about, and then they just scan the environment and eventually find a pathway to the server managing pacemakers.
Right, they just walk down the digital hallway.
Yeah, but in a segmented environment, that lateral movement is blocked. Mixing corporate email servers with the networks that update life-saving medical devices is a recipe for physical harm.
Yeah, that's where a data breach turns into a casualty event.
Exactly. So Medtronic's architecture, by utilizing that segmentation, did exactly what it was engineered to do under immense pressure. The corporate IT took a hit, but the blast radius was contained. The critical system survived.
Okay, that makes sense. But that brings us to the really unresolved mystery of this whole thing, which is what happened after that April 21 deadline passed.
Right, the disappearance.
Yeah, so the deadline hits, and then Medtronic was just abruptly removed from the ShinyHunters leak website.
Poof, gone.
It's just gone. And as the sources point out, this removal heavily implies that negotiations took place, or that a ransom payment was actually made.
Though we should note, Medtronic has not confirmed a payment, and they've stated they're still investigating the scope to see if personal data was actually accessed.
Right, standard legal protocol to not confirm anything right away. But still, the optics are pretty clear. And the sources note this is part of a growing trend of cyber attacks targeting these really large healthcare and medical tech organizations.
Because the attackers know the tolerance for downtime in healthcare is basically zero.
Exactly. But here's what fascinates me, the sort of customer service aspect of cybercrime.
Customer service.
Yeah. Think about it. If Medtronic was removed because a ransom was paid, does taking them off the site serve as the attacker's twisted way of protecting their own brand? Like, see, if you pay us, we actually keep our word.
You hit the nail on the head. That is the dark reality of the ransomware economy.
Really? They care about their brand reputation.
They absolutely have to. These extortion groups rely entirely on their reputation to make money. If ShinyHunters gets paid millions of dollars and then leaks the data anyway, future victims are going to see that.
Oh, I see. The next victim will just say, why would I pay you? You're just going to leak it regardless.
Exactly. The future victims will never pay. The extortion economy operates like an illicit corporation. They have business models, they have negotiation portals, they have essentially customer support for their victims.
That is just so wild to think about.
It is, but honor among thieves is a purely economic necessity for them. They have to prove that paying the ransom buys the desired outcome,
Yep.
or their whole business model collapses.
Yeah, and the pressure on the victims is just getting higher, too, especially with the regulatory environment changing.
Oh, definitely. Remember that SEC Form 8K we mentioned?
Yeah, the one they filed on April 24.
Right. The SEC requires publicly traded companies to disclose material cybersecurity incidents within 4 business days of determining they are material.
4 days. Wait, so the attackers give a 4-day deadline, and the SEC has a 4-day disclosure rule.
It's not a coincidence. Attackers know the victim is legally obligated to file that 8K, which makes the breach public knowledge and alerts investors.
So they set their countdown clock to exploit that exact window.
Exactly. They create this artificial pressure cooker, forcing the company to decide whether to pay quietly before the required SEC filing makes the situation even more volatile.
It's just a masterclass in psychological and regulatory manipulation.
It really is.
So, synthesizing all this for you listening, I mean, the core takeaways here are pretty stark. The Medtronic incident really showcases the terrifying scale of modern data theft. Millions of records accessed just by tricking someone on the phone.
But it also proves that defense works.
Right. It proves that rigorous IT architecture, specifically keeping your corporate systems and your medical or operational systems strictly separated, can actually prevent a massive data breach from turning into an absolute patient safety disaster.
The bulkheads held, to use a ship analogy.
Exactly. The ship took on water, but it didn't sink. But that leaves us with a really heavy thought to mull over, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, here's a final thought for you to explore on your own. If a massive, incredibly well-resourced titan like Medtronic, a company with endless capital, can have its corporate networks breached by a group like ShinyHunters using phishing,
Yeah.
what does that mean for the thousands of smaller clinics, the third-party billing vendors, and the local regional hospitals in the healthcare supply chain?
The ones that just don't have the budget for a perfectly segregated zero-trust network.
Exactly. They simply don't have the resources to build those bulkheads. How do they survive this exact same attack?
That is a chilling question, and definitely something you need to be thinking about regarding your own infrastructure. You really need to evaluate your own digital defenses before the countdown clock starts. Head over to www.kinsoft.com.au to discuss your security and IT needs, and make sure your architecture is ready for whatever comes next. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next time.